한국 음식은 서로 나누는 면에서 매우 사교적인 음식 문화다. 고기가 쫄깃한데 질기지 않고 부드럽다. 얼마 전 토트넘 공식 사이트는 손흥민 선수가 토트넘 동료들과 출연해 한국식으로 고기와 쌈장을 곁들여 쌈을 싸서 먹는 한국식 바비큐 먹는 방법을 소개했습니다. 한국식으로 고기를 구워 먹어본 토트넘 선수들은 쌈장이 뭔데 이렇게 맛있지? 입에서 그냥 녹는다. 질긴 고기 부위를 별로 안 좋아하는데 참기름을 찍어 먹으니 맛있다 등의 반응을 보였습니다. 이렇듯 한국식 바비큐는 한국의 음식 문화를 대표해왔습니다. 쌈장, 파절이, 소금기름, 상추, 깻잎, 무생채, 계란찜, 된장찌개와 함께 나오는 푸짐한 한상을 여러 사람들과 둘러앉아 즐기는 한국식 바비큐는 외국인들이 가장 사랑하는 한국 음식 문화 그 자체죠. 최근에는 한국식 바비큐 그릴을 집에 사다 두고 한국처럼 고기를 먹는 사람들도 늘어나고 있습니다. 그런데 외국인들이 한국식으로 제대로 한상 차려 먹는다는 건 쉬운 일이 아닐 텐데요. 요리 전문 옴니버러스 애덤 채널을 운영하는 미국인 애덤은 평소 한국 음식을 좋아해 즐겨 먹었고 유튜브에서 무장아찌, 콩나물 무침, 오이 무침, 파무침 4가지 한국 반찬을 만들어 큰 관심을 받기도 했죠. 그는 최근 집에서 한국식 바비큐를 먹고 싶어하는 미국인들을 위해 직접 만들어 먹는 영상을 올렸는데요. 해당 영상을 번역해 공유합니다.
This video is to show how you can emulate a restaurant-worthy Korean barbecue experience at your own crib. Of course, Korean barbecue, or KBBQ as it's referred to here in the United States, being the classic Korean style of eating that includes side dishes called banchans, a plethora of meats, and booze. Lots of booze. To those of you who aren't familiar with Korean barbecue, it's a very communal affair. It's eaten at a table, usually with a grill in the middle and small plates scattered about. There are a bunch of moving pieces that make up Korean barbecue, so I decided to break the video up into categories. Let's first start with le meat. Well, actually, first the marinade. Not all meats at Korean barbecue are marinated, however, what we're going to make is. This is my marinade for beef short ribs, or in Korean called kalbi. And don't worry, we'll talk more in depth about the meat in the next section in the video. My kalbi marinated uses peeled apple, onion, garlic, ginger, brown sugar, sesame oil, soy sauce, black pepper, and rice wine vinegar. Simply blitz all the ingredients in a blender until we get a semi-smooth puree. Once pureed, all we need to do is pour the mixture over the kalbi and let it sit anywhere from 2 hours to overnight if you have the time. Which moves us right along to the proteins. Just like barbecue here in the States, Korean barbecue isn't exclusive to one meat. Depending on the restaurant, one can order anything from beef or pork to things like chicken or even squid and other seafood. For the sake of this video, I've chosen my 2 favorite proteins to eat at Korean barbecue. First, we have our LA style kalbi, aka beef short ribs. LA style kalbi is simply short ribs cut flanken style. Depending on where you live, you could be used to English-style short ribs where the chunk of meat sits atop a single bone. Flanken-style short ribs are a lot more popular now, but if you can't find them anywhere, a decent butcher should be able to trim some up for you for sure. One theory on how LA Kalbi got its name is when Korean immigrants living in Los Angeles began cooking with Flanken-style short ribs that were easily found at most Mexican grocery stores in the area. Another is that LA stands for lateral cut, but you know, you can believe what you want. The second protein in our lineup is thinly sliced brisket or chattolbegi. I really hope I didn't butcher that. As stated, chattolbegi is super thin and generally isn't marinated. Because of its thinness, chattolbegi cooks very fast and tends to get pretty crispy. If you haven't noticed, both of these cuts, short ribs and brisket, are both considered to be tough cuts, meaning that they usually take a long time over low heat to become tender and pleasant to eat. This is actually a good lesson in how the way you cut a protein can affect how it cooks. Because of the way that these boys are cut and butchered, they cook up exquisitely and quickly over the high heat on the grill. And if beef isn't your jam, try looking for pork belly. It's inexpensive, accessible, and insanely bomb. Just be sure to slice it thin and against the grain so it cooks up properly. At KBBQ, it's common to wrap the meat in your vessel of choice, maybe with a little sauce, banchan, and or some rice in the middle. A sam is any food wrapped in leaves, seaweed, or vegetables. We'll touch more on how to make a sam in a bit, but for now let's talk about the sam wrappers, or as I like to call them, the vessels. One of my favorite sam wrappers is pickled Korean radish. To make this, simply peel and slice a Korean or daikon radish thinly with a knife or a mandolin. Then we're just gonna bring a quick pickling liquid up to a simmer and pour the mixture over the radish. Bam, pickled radish wrappers. Recipe and description. Another popular vessel of choice at Korean barbecue includes the perilla leaf. Perilla leaf is commonly mistaken for a sesame leaf, but biologically it's closer related to mint. Perilla leaf is super aromatic and can be picked up at most Korean markets. Other vessel options include red leaf lettuce or just good old romaine. These last two vessels are great options because the watery crunch is a refreshing way to break up the, other spicy, fatty, meaty flavors going on. And of course, you can't have Korean barbecue without white rice. Some people prefer their rice after the meal so that they don't get full, others opt for during. I'm definitely part of the eats rice during meal camp, but it's your call. Do what you want. Okay, side dishes. All good Korean barbecue needs proper accoutrement. Enter banchan. Banchan are served alongside most Korean meals. In this case, banchan are the small plates that fill in the gaps on the table at barbecue. Such things include spicy pickles, assorted kimchi, savory pancakes made from seafood or kimchi, cold salads, that sort of thing. Banchan are an important and fun part of the Korean barbecue experience. Matter of fact, banchan are so important that many people actually judge the quality of a restaurant based on the banchan alone. Banchan is a big topic, and to brush over it in this video really wouldn't do it justice, but luckily I have a video all about that, so be sure to check that out if you're looking for guidance on the banchan front. Alright, so banchan done, let's talk sauce. The Korean word jang is used to describe a number of different fermented sauces and pastes. I want to talk about 3 jang that come into play at Korean barbecue. Those are doenjang, gochujang, and samjong. Gochujang is a spicy, sweet paste that gets its color from the Korean red pepper flakes called gochugaru. Doenjang is a rich, savory paste made from fermented soybeans, so think miso but way earthier. And lastly, we have Samjong. Samjong is a baby of the two. It's a 50-50 mixture of gochujang and doenjang. It's a savory, semi-spicy paste meant to be smeared and eaten with sam, hence the name Samjong. You can totally make your own samjong by mixing the two pastes and adding a few other simple ingredients, or you can buy it from the store in a container like this. I know, it's not really on brand to reach for the commercially made store-bought stuff, but I've been eating samjong out of this green container since I was a little kid, so it's what I like. Another sauce I like to have at Korean barbecue is a toasted sesame oil sauce thing, and it really doesn't get much simpler. Add some toasted sesame seed oil to a small dish and sprinkle in some salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Boom. This sesame oil sitch goes well with most things, but I especially like dipping my chuttlebegi in it. Now for the other sauce, the booze. Alright, let's talk about the drink. We have our beer here, and we have our soju. 2 very important things in Korean barbecue. Korea is home to an old, developed, and beautiful drinking culture. It's one that includes tradition, respect, and fun all wrapped into one. A topic like this definitely deserves its own video, but for the sake of our mission, let's talk about the alcohol involved in Korean barbecue. Let's start with Korea's most popular drink, soju. Soju is a neutral-tasting liquor traditionally made from rice, but it can also be made from other starches like sweet potato or wheat. Soju is delicious, served cold, and usually taken in shot form. Soju is super smooth and has a minimal burn because it usually has an ABV of only like 20 to 25%. For scale, vodka is generally around 40 ABV, meaning soju is super easy to drink, so pace yourself there. Next, we have staple Korean beers like Cass, Height, or Obi. There are plenty of brands out there, but you can't go wrong with any one of these. These beers are very mild and crisp. For comparison, they're sort of on par with something like a Budweiser. A common thing you'll see people drink at Korean barbecue is called Someek. Oh, yeah, and I see all the cool kids doing this elbow thing all the time, so, this is my attempt. Also, remember to keep the metal top from the soju bottle for drinking games. Very important. Anyways, Someek can be classified as a bomb drink, meaning a shot of hard liquor is dropped into another liquid. In this case, a shot of soju is dropped into beer. Bombs away. Come back. All part of a balanced breakfast. The next best option that I found are these portable cooktops. They work great and are going to be your best friend for at-home KBBQ. If you have an induction cooktop too, you can run an extension cord to the table and use that, but I like my wire-free camp stove. And of course, some small plates to take up less space on the table for banchan, and some tongs for grilling. And of course, a good pair of kitchen scissors. At Korean barbecue, scissors are just as important as a chef's knife, believe it or not, maybe even more important. At first, this might seem funny to you, but once you use these little guys at the table, I assure you, you'll be asking yourself why you've never used them to cook with before. These scissors are a great tool for cutting meat into bite-sized chunks on the actual grill. You might sell your entire knife collection for a pair of nice scissors, but just a little quick tip from experience, you're gonna wanna grill the marinated meat last. When you eat out at a Korean barbecue restaurant, they have people coming around to change out the grill grates so that the blackened bits aren't really an issue. But at home, unless you have a stack of cast irons at the ready, we don't have that luxury. Alright, let's Sam 101, let's make one. There's no one way to make a sam, but there is a basic formula. Wrap whichever meat in whichever vessel with whichever sauce and banchan you do so desire. Get creative, get weird. You are the king of your sam realm, so go to town. Then we're just gonna, fold that up nice like. Down.
That was cute.
Korean barbecue is my favorite way to eat, period. The communal energy, the process of cooking and sharing the food around the table, the fun drinking games and conversations had, it's just a blast every time, and I love it. I'll go first. Regardless if you're a KBBQ connoisseur or new to it all, I challenge you to throw down a Korean barbecue dinner at your own house, and I hope this video helps.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.